If you invested $1 into gold in 1802, how much do you think it would be worth today after inflation? $1,000, $10,000, $100,000? The real answer, $1.24. If you have recently started getting into investing and finance, I'm sure someone has told you that gold is one of the best investments you can make. After all, unlike money, the government can't print more gold. Its finite properties has given gold this reputation of being a very safe haven asset that will protect your money and grow as an investment. People tend to invest in gold in times of economic uncertainty, and the thought process behind that is if the dollar system we know today collapses, then as an economy, as a global economy, we will likely result back to what we were using before the dollar, which was precious metals like gold and silver. Because of this, you might think that gold is a very safe investment that you can make to protect your money against inflation and have it grow exponentially, right? The answer is absolutely not. Jeremey Siegel, an economist and finance professor at the University of Pennsylvania, had this exact same thought process. So what he did, he tracked all these different financial instruments across a period of 200 years, and the goal of his experiment was to find the worth of these instruments after 200 years and after inflation adjustments have been made. So he found that $1 invested in 1802 would result in $1.24 in gold, $248 in T-bills, $605 in bonds, and a whopping $109,000 in shares after 200 years. This is because gold isn't the investment opportunity that many people think it is, but rather it is a tool that is used for hedging against inflation. So what does hedging mean in the world of finance? And no, I'm not talking about the hedges in your backyard. So hedging means to own an asset in the opposite direction of all your other assets. And if that sounds confusing, it's because it probably is. People in finance tend to use really complicated terms and definitions for something that is very simple, and they do this to make themselves sound smart. So in the simplest way possible, just imagine you have a normal stock portfolio, right? And obviously in periods of economic uncertainty, or maybe periods like war, that stock portfolio's value will go down. But if you buy another asset like gold during economic uncertainty or times of war, that asset price will go up. The losses you incur from your portfolio will be offset by the gains you make with your gold investment. So people tend to use gold as a hedging instrument to protect themselves against inflation. And because gold holds its value so well, it performs this job exceptionally well. It will hold your value, but what it won't do is grow as an investment. So I want to ask you, why would you not want to invest in something that not only protects your money, but also grows it by over 100,000%? And I know you're probably thinking that, okay, if I invest in the stock market, what happens if the economy crashes? And what happens if a world war breaks out? And what happens if we have to resort back to precious metals like gold and silver? Then what? But what's the chance of that actually happening? It's incredibly low. Global economic financial crises happen all the time, and as a global economy, we always recover. Just think back to a couple of years ago when there was literally a global pandemic and the entire world was shut down. We recovered from that, right? Now think back to 2008 when there was a housing market crisis and there was a big asset bubble, which was the housing market that popped, and it impacted the entire economy. And yet we still recovered, right? Think back to all the previous world wars and periods of the Great Depression. We still recovered from that, right? And although there have been some economic collapses like the hyperinflation and economic collapse for Germany in the 1920s, where there was so much inflation that the German mark basically became worthless, and they resulted back to bartering with gold and other precious metals. Or in the 1990s, when Yugoslavia during the Balkan War saw its citizens using gold and silver when its trust in the local currency eroded. Despite these massive catastrophes, it only impacted a small region rather than the entire world. Our economies are highly interconnected with robust systems in place that are literally there just to make sure that we don't have to go back in time and go from the dollar system that we have today all the way back to precious metals. And things like the central banks, global financial institutions, and international aid do exactly this. Not only this, and I hate to be Captain Obvious, but going back to the precious metals system would be a massive leap back for most economies in our world. Our world today has become increasingly reliant on digital currencies and transactions. As I'm sure you've probably heard, people are slowly becoming accustomed to the fact that they can literally walk into a shop and buy an apple with cryptocurrency that was funded from some stupid meme coin that went like 200,000x in 5 minutes. Now imagine telling these same people who literally go to the store, pay with their phone from some dumb meme coin that has literally printed money from thin air, that now they have to go back to carrying gold and silver around. So now, as you can probably imagine, this will be the biggest step back in economic history. So while the complete collapse of our global economy is a possibility, it would require a catastrophe so large that we have never seen anything like it before. Because since the start of time, we as a global economy have never taken a step back so big that we go from a present day currency all the way back to something we were using hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. So again, I ask you, why would you want to invest in something that only protects your money when you can invest in something that not only protects it, but also grows it, which is backed by real scientific evidence? So if you want to find out how to protect your money and as well grow it at the same time in the financial or the stock market, I've made a full guide on how to do all of that, which isn't sponsored or anything, by the way. There's nothing that I'm selling there. I've made a full guide that's for free on my channel that I'll have linked up in the corner here.